The 1920s was an interesting time in American history. I mean, really interesting. People dressed fancy, danced to jazz music, and had wild parties. But there was also the Prohibition, which banned alcohol completely. It was the time of economic boom and social change in America, and that's why we call it the Roaring Twenties. So, what exactly was it like to live in that time? How are the American people experiencing massive changes around them? And why are these men from that time wearing such massive coats? Want to know? Stay with me till the end, because this video will tell you all about it. Now, without any more delay, let's travel back to the 1920s. You could say that having a drink or two is nothing to worry about, but for 1920s America, it was getting out of hand. There were cases of extreme drunkenness and social issues like child abandonment and domestic violence resulting from excessive drinking. So what did they do? They passed the 18th Amendment of the US Constitution that completely banned it. But did it stop people from partying? Nope. If they couldn't run bars in plain sight, they took them to underground places and called them speakeasies. This meant that crime and illegal activities were on the loose. Some notable names like Al Capone capitalized on this demand for alcohol and made millions. This alcohol ban lasted from 1920 to 1933, but instead of curbing consumption, statistically, it increased the number of people drinking. Bet you never seen something as crazy as this. During the 1920s, the American people were all about spectacle and doing something unique, even if it meant sitting on the top of a flagpole. That's right, folks. A guy named Alan Kelly thought, why don't I try sitting on top of a pole to gain attraction? That's exactly what he did. Over the course of 2 decades, Kelly spent 20,613 hours in total sitting on flagpoles and earned fame and money doing that. He would travel across the country and charge people who wanted to see him doing this rather strange stunt. He would mainly have coffee and cigarettes while he was on the pole sitting, and even managed to sleep sitting upright. For safety, he always had just a leg strap. Inspired by Kelly's feat, others soon joined in, attempting to break his record and claim their own moment in the spotlight. Kelly sat an astounding 49 days and 1 hour on the 225-foot-tall steel pier in Atlantic City, New Jersey. This, by the way, is still a valid record. Would you want to break it? Take a moment to tell us in the comments. Before the 1920s, it wasn't very common for people to own cars and drive around for leisure. However, the FED passed the Federal Highway Act of 1921, which funded the construction of new roads and highways. Some cars of that time included Ford Model T, and it became common because of how affordable it was. How do you think people refueled cars back then when there weren't any gas stations like today? Let me tell you, gasoline was typically sold at hardware stores, general stores, and even pharmacies, where customers could fill up their tanks using hand-operated pumps. Anyways, when roads were built, people could travel long distances easily, and this opened up new opportunities for trade, commerce, and tourism. Much like today, back in the 20s, people loved sports too. Sports like baseball and boxing captured the hearts of Americans, providing entertainment and fostering a sense of national pride. Baseball was in fact America's favorite pastime, and players like Babe Ruth dominated many American hearts. Ruth's record-breaking home runs and charismatic personality made him a cultural icon, drawing fans to stadiums across the country. In boxing, heavyweight champion Jack Dempsey reigned supreme, captivating audiences with his ferocious fighting style and larger-than-life persona. Although television wasn't commonly present in homes in the 20s, people used to listen to the radio to stay up to date with their favorite sports. At the beginning of the decade, only 1% of American households had a radio, and by 1931, almost 75% of households had it. Before radio, Americans only had newspapers to know what was going on, but radio transformed it, and now everyone could tune into news, music, and live broadcasts. Families gathered around their radios in the evening, listening to popular shows like the sitcom Amos and Andy. Today, we have too many channels and shows, and everyone has a different favorite one. But back then, choices were limited, and perhaps that's why some people say that Amos and Andy is the most famous radio series ever. Speaking of performing arts, the 20s was the time when Hollywood was emerging as the entertainment capital of the world. Although films were silent at the time because of technological limitations, some iconic names like Charlie Chaplin, Mary Pickford, and Rudolph Valentino left an everlasting mark on the history of American cinema. Grand movie palaces sprung up in cities across America, offering audiences an escape from the everyday grind. I'm sure you've heard of the big movie studios like MGM and Paramount. The 20s was their time to rise and shine. They released one hit after another, and soon Hollywood was at the top of the world's movie scene. 1927 was the year of the transition from silent to sound cinema, and The Jazz Singer was the first ever sound film released by Warner Brothers at their flagship theater in New York City. Enjoying the video? Please press the like and subscribe button. Each like and subscribe helps support this channel and keeps me motivated to keep making you valuable content. Thank you. Now back to the video. Did you notice that Time magazine celebrated its 100th year in 2023? So, it means the iconic magazine started out during the 20s as well. Time emerged as a pioneering force in American journalism, providing readers with a weekly digest of news, culture, and opinion. Its founders were two young journalists, Henry R. Luce and Britton Haddon, and their magazine quickly became a cultural institution and is now the largest American print title. In fact, Time magazine has more than 1 million subscribers today. A single issue of Time magazine in the 20s was around 15 cents, which is just above $2.2 today. Remember the guy who sat on a flagpole for days? Wait till you hear what's coming. During the 1920s, dance marathons became a popular form of entertainment and endurance tests. How long can you keep dancing? At that time, participants of the dance marathons would dance for hours, days, or even weeks at a time, competing for cash prizes and fame. Dance marathons provided both entertainment for spectators and a source of income for participants during the challenging economic times of the Great Depression. However, they also raised ethical concerns about exploitation and the toll it took on the participants' physical and mental well-being. On the other hand, lively jazz music emerged as the theme of the Roaring '20s that synced perfectly with the flappy dance moves with energetic footwork of that time. Some notable names in the jazz music industry are Louis Armstrong, Duke Ellington, and Jelly Roll Morton. In fact, anyone can guess the era if you give them a jazz music clue. The 20s were truly the jazz era. During that time, people had a blast coming up with all sorts of fun slang words and phrases. If something was really cool, they'd say it was the bee's knees or the cat's pajamas. And if you wanted to talk about illegal booze, you'd just call it hooch or bootleg. An attractive woman was called a doll, and daddy-o was the slang for a fashionable or cool person. If you wanted someone to leave quickly, you would probably say 23 skidoo and call an important or influential person the big cheese. These are just some of the crazy slang terms used by the youth of that time. You have to agree, people really did their fashion back then. Flappers was the name given to bold young women who challenged conventions with short skirts, sleeveless dresses, and bobbed haircuts. Remember those big corsets of the previous decades? The 20s women's fashion was such a departure from all of that. The flapper silhouette featured a straight, loose fit with dropped waistlines and hemlines that rose to the knee or slightly above, creating a more boyish figure. Beaded dresses with sequins and fringe became a symbol of the era's glamour and liberation. For hats, there were those close-fitting cloche hats. The men's fashion flavored slim, tailored suits with narrow lapels and straight-leg trousers. The vests were often patterned or made from contrasting fabrics and worn as part of a three-piece suit ensemble. The most famous hats were fedoras, often worn tilted to one side for added flair. Did you know that zippers only started to be used in clothing during the 1920s? And it revolutionized fashion, making form-fitting garments popular. Now, let's explain the picture of those furry coats we showed you in the beginning. During the 1920s, raccoon fur coats were highly sought after as a fashion statement, particularly among young people. Raccoon fur has distinctive markings and a luxurious texture which became a status symbol and style during the era. It was mainly acquired by students who wore them for their collegiate wardrobe. Just imagine the laughs one would receive if one tried to do that today. Anyways, the popularity of raccoon fur coats also coincided with the rise of the collegiate or Ivy League look. And because they were warm and rather inexpensive, students of schools like Harvard, Yale, and Princeton made it their style statement. Looking at this, the 20s sure looked like a happening time to be alive. What's your favorite part of the era? We would love to know. If the 20s really intrigued you, wait till you hear about the notorious criminal Al Capone, whose activities were at the peak during this time. Click on this video shown on the screen, and I'll see you there.